The desert winds of Karos carried with them the sting of iron and ash. Towers of twisted steel dotted the horizon, remnants of a war that had ended decades ago but whose scars remained etched into the landscape. Amid those ruins sat a lone figure, a slender woman with pale silver skin and eyes that glowed faintly violet. She was not human, though to an untrained eye she might pass for one. Her name was Elira, and she was stranded. Beside her lay a collapsed automaton, its once glorious body now broken and inert. It had been her companion, her guardian, and the last link she had to her people. Its gears no longer turned, its energy core flickered out hours before. Elira had tried every repair sequence she knew, but nothing worked. Her hands trembled as she pressed them against the robot's dented chest. "Don't leave me," she whispered in her native tongue, a soft melodic sequence that the winds carried away. She was alone, worlds away from home, and without her machine, she had no protection, no guidance, and no family. That was when she saw movement on the ridge. A tall man in a worn-out jacket, carrying a heavy pack, trudged toward her. His boots crunched over the metal shards scattered across the sand. Elira tensed, instinctively reaching for the small blade she carried. But when the man came closer, his eyes widened, not with aggression but with surprise. "Is that an Argathian servo unit?" he asked, staring at the broken robot. His voice was deep but kind, filled with the steady tone of someone who worked with machines his whole life. Elira blinked, not fully understanding his words. Human language was harsh, filled with clipped edges compared to her flowing dialect. But she caught two words. Servo unit. He knew what it was. The man crouched near the robot and examined it with practiced hands. His fingers brushed the cracked plating, the exposed circuits, the fused joints. Then he looked up at her. "I'm Marcus," he said slowly, pressing a hand to his chest. "Engineer." Elira hesitated, then mirrored the gesture. Elira. The beginning, a broken machine. Over the next hour, Marcus worked in silence. Elira watched closely, her violet eyes following every movement. He laid out tools, strange, simple things compared to Argathian technology, but wielded with incredible skill. He opened the automaton's chest cavity, carefully prying at wires and shifting plates. Elira tried to communicate, pointing at the robot and then clasping her hands together in a plea. "Family," she said in broken human tongue. Marcus paused, his expression softening. He nodded. "We'll try." The repairs were not easy. The Argathian design was centuries ahead of human engineering, but damage was damage, and machines were machines. Marcus adapted, improvising connectors from scrap, adjusting circuits, and even using fragments of his own equipment to bridge gaps. At one point sparks flew and the robot twitched. Elira gasped and reached for its arm, but the light faded again. She looked at Marcus desperately. "Not done yet," he reassured her. "But it's got a chance." For the first time in days, hope flickered in her chest. The middle, the human who fixed more. They made camp in the ruins as the twin moons of Karos rose. Marcus lit a fire, and Elira sat across from him, her arms wrapped around herself. He offered her a piece of dried food. She sniffed it cautiously, then nibbled, her face scrunching at the taste, but hunger overcame hesitation. "You're far from home," Marcus said softly, gazing into the fire. Elira tilted her head. She understood only fragments, but his tone carried meaning. She gestured to the stars. "Far." Then, with a trembling hand, she gestured to the robot again. "Home." Marcus exhaled slowly. He realized then that this machine wasn't just a tool to her. It was memory, connection, family. Maybe even the last piece of her people she had. Over the following days, they traveled together. Marcus continued repairs whenever they stopped, and Elira helped him in turn, teaching him little gestures of her language. At first, they struggled, but slowly, communication bloomed between them. One night, Elira surprised him. She pointed to herself, then signed fluidly. "Thank you." Marcus blinked. You sign." She repeated the gesture, then carefully shaped her lips around the human words. "Thank you." Marcus felt something stir inside him, not just respect for her resilience but admiration. She was learning his language to reach him. And in return, he began mimicking her signs. She laughed softly, correcting his clumsy motions, her laughter like music in the desolate wasteland. The robot remained at the center of their work. Piece by piece, Marcus brought it closer to life. Power nodes began to hum, hydraulics whispered faintly, and its eyes flickered once before dimming again. Elira clutched Marcus's arm, her eyes brimming with tears. "Alive!" "Not yet," Marcus admitted, "but close." The conflict, more than machines. But hope always came with danger. One morning, as the horizon burned red, raiders descended from the cliffs. Scraps of armor clattered as half-starved men swarmed the ruins, drawn by the scent of smoke and life. They carried blades and crude energy rifles, and their eyes burned with desperation. Marcus grabbed his sidearm, but he was only one man. Elira pressed close to the robot, shielding it with her body. The raiders laughed cruelly. "That machine'll sell for a fortune," one shouted. Marcus stood firm, aiming his weapon. "Over my dead body." The fight was brutal. Marcus fired, taking down 2 attackers, but they pressed harder. One raider swung a blade, cutting across Marcus's arm. He stumbled, blood soaking his sleeve. Elira screamed in her language, desperately pressing buttons on the half-repaired robot. "Wake! Please wake!" But it remained lifeless. The raiders shoved Marcus to the ground, weapons raised for the final strike. And then a roar filled the air. The robot surged upward, its eyes blazing with light. Sparks cascaded from its joints, but it moved, shielding Elira and Marcus. With a single swipe of its massive arm, it sent raiders flying. Energy bolts ricocheted off its chest as it unleashed a mechanical howl that echoed through the ruins. The raiders, terrified, fled into the dunes. Breathing hard, Marcus lay on the ground, clutching his arm. Elira dropped to his side, tears streaming. "You fixed," she whispered, touching the robot's chest, then touching Marcus's wound with equal tenderness. "Fixed you." Marcus winced but smiled weakly. "Guess we fixed each other." The ending beyond repairs. They remained together after that day. The robot, though still scarred, walked again, its massive form following Elira like a loyal guardian. But she no longer looked at it with only desperation, because now she had Marcus. He taught her more words. She taught him signs. Together they built not only bridges between their species, but trust, laughter, and quiet companionship. Weeks later, when rescue ships appeared on the horizon, human ships responding to Marcus's distress beacon, Elira faced a choice. Her people would come for her one day. But here now, she had someone who had not only repaired her last link to home, but had mended the loneliness in her heart. As the ramp of the ship lowered, Marcus turned to her. "You'll be safe now." Elira looked at him for a long time, then signed slowly, carefully.